Hey everyone, welcome to AP Physics 1. I'm going to be the instructor for this course, Mr. Clow. It's like saying the word cloud, but then stopping before you get to the D. I just want to quickly run through a lot of the main pieces that you need to know about this course, and some expectations. I do want to point out that some things may end up changing as we continue through the year, so just keep an ear out, but I just want you to know kind of what to expect in this course. So, first off, if you don't know yet, physics is essentially the science of everything. Anything and everything in this world can be described in physics. This is, planes, trains, automobiles, why the sky is blue. All these things are basically uh, in the realm of physics. In fact, it is usually said that there is no other science but physics, because all the other sciences are actually derived based off of physics. A good example of this is chemistry is the science of how atoms and particles interact. You know, you have elements like hydrogen has a certain number of electrons, helium has a certain number of electrons, and certain elements can actually combine to form molecules. Helium can't really combine with another particle, another element to form a molecule, but hydrogen can and oxygen can. So why is that? Well, it's because of physics. Physics describes the electromagnetic forces that actually go on in that scenario. Same thing for all the other sciences. We can pinpoint where the physics is in that setup. So it really is the one true science. Now, the one thing to note is that because physics is so vast and so deep, there is so much that we could talk about with physics, we can't discuss all of it. And fortunately, a lot of the fun stuff we kind of have to leave at the door, mainly because it turns out that a lot of that fun stuff tends to be a little bit more on the complicated side. Now, if you didn't know yet, AP Physics 1 is the first of a 2 year course. Now, this school does not offer the second year course yet. There is a chance that maybe if we continue with the AP Physics curriculum and we get enough people wanting to move on for a second year, especially if a lot of people taking AP Physics 1s are juniors, we might be able to start a 2 year, the second course. I do want to point out really quickly that the AP Physics 2 course is significantly easier than AP Physics 1. Um, you'll see why I say that in a second. Now, the one thing about the AP Physics 1 compared to if you've taken regular physics, but also a lot of the other sciences, is that this one focuses on what's called qualitative questions rather than quantitative questions. This means that instead of asking you to calculate stuff, they're going to focus more on getting a conceptual understanding of, what effects things have. If they change a variable, how is that affecting other things? If you increase the speed, how does that affect the stopping distance? And not just, how does it affect the stopping distance, but, how much further does the person go? Does doubling the speed double the stopping distance? How can we do experiments in order to test for the acceleration of an object? All these focus on the qualitative understanding. Now, it turns out that in order to actually get you to understand the qualitative concepts behind here, we actually do need to focus a lot on the quantitative stuff. So, one thing you'll notice is that in class, I will tend to focus on quantitative questions. A lot of the homeworks that you're going to do are going to focus on calculations. This is mainly because I want to make sure that you have a firm grasp on the concepts and on the equations so that when you get to the conceptual questions, um, you'll be able to have those equations in the back of your mind and be able to work through with them. I do want to point out that the qualitative is actually a little bit tricky to kind of practice. Quantitative is a lot easier to practice, so that's another reason why I'm doing that. You will see on a lot of tests, and I'm going to try to get some practice questions that are, show what the qualitative questions would look like. But I just want to point out that it's mainly going to be calculation stuff. Now, when you're going through this course, there's actually going to be two tests that you're expected to take at the end of the year. I don't have the exact dates right now since I'm actually still in June right now, uh, recording this. So we'll have more information later on. But the two tests are going to be the AP Physics 1, which of course is going to be in early May. And then there's going to be the Regents test, which is mid-June. For the most part, it's pretty much always the second to last Regents that's offered, which kind of sucks. I know a lot of people tend not to want to do stuff after they take the AP, but the Regents is pretty easy. So most likely, if you can survive this course, the Regents will be a joke, and you'll end up getting, definitely above an 80, probably into the 90s. Really quickly, these are the topics that are covered in AP Physics 1. We have kinematics, which is just a fancy way of saying motion, forces, which is what causes motions, gravity, which are planetary forces or planetary motion, momentum is the motion of collisions, energy causes motion. So you can almost see the pattern here. We're focusing on the concept of motion, moving objects, and the interaction between objects. Then we have rotational motion, which is the motion in a circle, and simple harmonic motion or periodic motion. Now, you might notice that these two, the last two, have been highlighted blue. The reason being is that all of this stuff is covered in the regents. Now, to differentiate regents in AP, we're going to go into a lot more detail, and we're going to look at much trickier and tougher aspects. So we're going to go, further in than the Regents course does. But these two topics are not covered at all on the Regents. So just keep that in mind that when we switch over, these two topics will no longer be thought of after you take the AP. Now, for the Regents, like I said, most of the stuff stays the same. All the way up to energy, but then we end up going into new material, which is electricity, which is now talking about charges, circuitry, moving charges, magnetism is accelerating charges, waves, motion of energy, and modern physics, which is just in general a lot of weird stuff going on. So this is stuff that we're going to be covering after the AP, but like I said, once you kind of go over the initial part with all of that foundation that's laid out from the AP, this stuff will become a complete joke, and we'll be able to kind of breeze through it within a week or so. When Regents actually takes this is covered within, I believe, two quarters. So yeah, we'll be able to condense it really quick for you guys. All right, some required materials. You need a pen and pencil. Ideally, I actually recommend a pencil rather than a pen, just because when you're doing problems, it's good to have that whole process of working through it, erasing it, making mistakes, and kind of continuing through. Pen makes it really tough. A lot of times people will find it that they don't want to make a mistake, so then they won't write as much because they have a pen. But pencils are so much easier to work with, so I highly recommend them. Um, Make sure you have a calculator. I have calculators in I have calculators in the classroom that you could borrow. I do have some graphing calculators. You don't need the graphing calculators, but I do actually kind of recommend that you get it, as I'll mention later on. I also do recommend that you get a three-ring binder with loose leaf paper. I'm going to be handing out a lot of notes, especially I'm trying to write up guided notes right now. So you want the binder to actually hold all that stuff in. You don't want to be flipping around a lot. I actually would recommend that you get some sort of dividers too for each of the units. I recommend that you kind of keep track of your notes and assignments. Make sure that you're up to date because you never know. Quizzes and tests will end up being based off this stuff. With tests, you'll be notified with a decent amount of time in advance, but quizzes not always. So, you want to make sure that you're not falling behind. Yeah, make sure that whatever is said, anything that's important that's pointed out, don't fall in that mistake of thinking that you'll remember it. Always write things down and try to be neat with your your notes. The grading policy is going to be pretty much the what's covered in the science department. Uh, Tests and quizzes are going to be 60% altogether. Um, Labs are going to be worth 15%, class participation's 15, and homework's 10. I'm going to break down each of these topics quickly. So tests are pretty much given once at the end of each unit. There's also going to be a quarterly at the end of each quarter that kind of covers everything covered in that quarter. Um, it's going to be a combination of multiple choice and short answers. This is where you're going to end up. I'm going to try to make it so that the tests, again, reflect the AP. It's going to reflect the way that the questions are laid out, like the AP, um, like the setup is, the timing constraints. All this stuff is going to mimic the AP exam. So you'll see a lot of questions. Some of them might be quantitative, but a lot of questions are being qualitative, conceptual stuff. So, you want to keep an eye out for that. Um, Now, everyone makes mistakes, and a lot of times you might come in, especially for an AP course, you might feel like you have some anxiety. You don't want to go in with this heavy burden on you that you have to achieve a great grade in order to do well. So you might want to know, is there a way for you to get test corrections and get extra points? And the answer is going to be sort of. I'm actually working through. You will be able to get some points back, uh, but it's not exactly test corrections. Now, I'm not going to go into much detail with this right now because I want to work through this a little bit more before I put it in. So don't hold me to this. Originally, when I taught this course before, I gave students a quiz that was filled with only Regents questions, which compared to a lot of the AP questions are very easy, very straightforward. And this allowed them to get a percentage of their lost points back. Though you did have to make sure that you reviewed the test with me before you were eligible, and you had to make sure that you did it within a few days of getting the test back. Just mostly so that I can kind of churn everything out and kind of keep the whole course moving forward. I don't know if I'm going to be doing this. We'll see, and it might end up changing, but it's probably going to be something very similar to this. Quizzes. Now, this is really optional. It may not happen. I may give quizzes throughout the unit. Might be, you know, once every other week or so. It's going to be filled with quantitative and qualitative questions. For the most part, these questions are going to be taken from homeworks and worksheet assignments. Now, for the most part, these quizzes will actually be unannounced. Um, so keep that in mind. But the frequency will actually be based off of you. I'm going to keep an eye on how you guys are working, and the quizzes may end up coming more frequent or less frequent depending on how you are acting during the class. All right, lab policy. So the labs are pretty much what you expect in your other courses. They're things that you have to end up taking, especially since you need them not only for the AP requirement but also for the Regents course. These labs are going to be graded out of 50 points. You're going to have to make sure that you follow them. There's going to be some labs that might actually require a formal write-up. I'll probably keep those formal write-up labs to being one per quarter. Now you have to make sure that any labs that you submit have to be satisfactory, I guess. If they're not, they won't get accepted, and you'll end up being penalized 10% per week. So that means if it was due on Tuesday, you have and you hand it in after Tuesday, up until the next Tuesday, you get demoted 10 points. That's it. Once you get past that next Tuesday, then it gets deducted another 10 points. So once it's late, it's 10 points per late week. And then labs should be typed or neatly written. Of course, I'm referring to the the proper full-on lab report type stuff. If you're the type of person who has a messy handwriting, please do me a favor and type it up. For the most part, the informal labs, which, like I said, are majority of these labs, they're going to be done in class. You might have to do some stuff outside, but it's mainly set up in the class with your lab partners. The formal lab reports are going to be going into a lot more depth outside. I'll explain why I'm doing this later on, but there is a specific reason I want these formal lab reports done. Now, formal lab reports, like I said, I'll go into more detail when we come to it, but it'll have things like writing an introduction section, a background, a material, procedures, data, analysis, all these types of things. This would all be in the formal lab report. Class participation, this is everything that you do in class. For the most part, you get 100 class participation for the week, as long as you attempt the do nows to the best of your ability and attempt classwork to the best of your ability. That basically means that I want to make sure that while everyone's working on the do now in the beginning of the class, that you have pencil to paper, that you are actually attempting it. If the question is a 5-part question and some of the parts are really easy and you haven't even attempted the question, or you've just written some, like, a little blurb down, but nothing showing conceptual thought going on, you don't get credit. So you need to actually attempt it to the best of your ability based off of you being conscious within my class. And that will get you the 100. For the most part, it's really easy to get 100. There are things that you can do, though, to get that grade lower. That would be things like playing on your phone, sleeping, talking, being distracted, saying the phrase "I don't know" when I ask you for questions. These will make you lose points for that day. For the most part, it's 20 points a day. Actually, no, 2 points each day leads up to being out of 10. So, doing one of these things knocks off a point for that day. Now, just to clarify, the whole "I don't know" that usually refers to, like I said, if I ask you, what your answer was, or if I ask you, some question, and you just say the phrase "I don't know" and that's it, I start taking off points. There are ways to kind of convey that you've attempted the question, but you're not too sure. Saying things like, "I don't know. I was thinking about using this equation, but I was having trouble figuring out what numbers go in." That shows me that while you don't know what to do and you didn't get the answer, you at least had cognitive thoughts going on to kind of lead you towards something. You know, you've proven that you know at least something. So don't just, if you're going to say "I don't know," don't just end it there. Continue on and kind of explain what you do know and what you are attempting, things like that. Homework, I'm going to attempt to have the homeworks done through Mastering Physics. There should be a nice program that allows you to do everything on the computer. You might have to actually you might have to start up an account and complete a "how to do Mastering Physics," since it can get a little tricky to use it and it's very particular. For the most part, I'll give you a problem set. I don't know how many questions it will be, but normally what I'll do is I'll give it on Fridays. It'll cover all the material that we did that week, and then it'll be due that next Wednesday. And that's pretty much it. These questions will actually focus more on calculation base because, again, I want to practice your understanding of the equations first and foremost. All right. If you haven't done so already, like I said, I'll give more information about the AP Physics 1 exam as we get closer to it. And if you haven't done so already, you should have a College Board account set up. Make sure that you're contacting your guidance counselors about any sort of information about pricing and deadlines. You want to make sure that you're up to date with this stuff. Now, this is one thing that I want to point out is something a little bit different compared to last year and previous AP courses. Have you ever heard of the APC exam? Well, it turns out that for those who feel that AP Physics 1 is just not enough. They want to do a little bit more physics. My recommendation is to take the AP Physics C Mechanics exam. Um, well, what is the AP Physics C Mechanics exam? It's the combination between physics and calculus, hence the term AP Physics C. The C stands for calculus. So how will you study for it? Well, the thing is, I won't be doing any of the material teaching of this stuff in class. You'll either have to work at home by yourself or come to extra help and ask me questions, and I can help you out. Though I will have to make sure that I focus on my main students first before working on the optional extras work. But I will provide you of any materials that I have for the APC. Practice questions that I have, free response questions. I might have some videos recorded of me going over some of the questions. So I will give you materials and some guidance. And if you want, more, full on explanation of things, you'll have to come to extra help. Now, obviously, the main question that I'm sure everyone's thinking right now is why would I ever do that? Why would I want to take more physics when most of you probably wouldn't even want to take the AP Physics 1 the way it is? The main reason is because colleges tend to accept the APC over the AP Physics 1. A good example of this is Stony Brook tends to accept credit for the AP Physics 1 if you get a 3 or above. So they'll give you 3 science credits, but that's pretty much it. But if you take the APC exam, while Stony Brook would require you to get at least a 4 at that point, they will allow you to jump over and opt out of taking AP Physics 125. So this is a way for you to not only get credit, but get a very specific course credit for that college. And a lot of other colleges work a similar way where they'll give extra incentive for doing well on the APC that they don't normally do for the AP Physics 1. They'll just give science credit and that's it, while this one will give you specific physics credit. And another good thing about this is AP Physics 1, while it's been out for about 7 years, there's still not a whole lot of really good resources out. There's not a lot of good textbooks and workbooks to go through. A lot of them tend to still be working on the old AP Physics exam, focusing on calculation and not so much on the concept questions. The APC exam, on the other hand, is not like that at all. There are a ton of information. In fact, I have an entire workbook of old released APC questions. This way, you'll enter into the AP exam with a much better preparation than you would with AP Physics 1. Even though I will do my best to kind of prepare you for it, the APC, there's just more information out there for you. When I've done this, I've done this in previous courses. The average student scored 1 point higher on the APC than they did on the AP1. In fact, there was one year where I had one student who actually scored 2 points higher. So, yeah, you will end up, there's a good chance that you will end up with a higher point grade because of this extra information. And then also, it gives a much better idea of what to expect in college. If you're going into a field that requires physics, AP Physics C has question styles that are really good at mimicking what goes on in the college level. So, how do you take it? All this sounds great. What do you do? Well, I would like you to give me your information, your name, make sure that your parents sign off on it. I'll, give you a paper later on and basically inform your guidance counselor that you want to take it and, the steps there. For the most part, you should just be able to sign up through College Board and that's it. But you might want to inform them. Now, I would recommend not to make the decision right this second. Wait until around December-ish, where you have to start making that the preparation for signing up for the APs. Make your decision then, and then let me know. Now, classroom policies are pretty much same as all the other classes. Make sure that you come prepared. You have all your materials, calculators, reference tables, notes, all that stuff. Make sure that you're not eating in the class. Um, Throw out any garbage that you have before you leave. Make sure that anything that you borrow that you took from me gets handed in. You borrow a ruler, hand it in. Borrow a calculator, hand it back. Don't do any other classwork assignments or playing games on your phone. Again, doing that stuff will lose you points in class participation. Make sure that you're treating everyone respectfully, even if you don't like someone in the class. Treat them well, at least within the boundaries of my classroom. Make sure that you're not using any inappropriate language towards me or your classmates. Other classroom policies include things like no cheating. Shouldn't have to explain that one. No complaining. One thing I'll keep reminding you is that everything I do for a very specific reason. That reason of preparing you for the AP exam and preparing you for college. So please don't complain. I know it can suck. AP Physics 1 is probably one of the hardest tests, and I feel for you, but no complaining. I've heard it all, and everything I do for a reason. Don't haggle. If I end up giving bonus points, you should be happy with that. Don't, say like, well, can I get 10 points instead of, three? It kind of tends to make me want to go the other way and pull back and not give bonus points. So try not to haggle with me. Though I will point out that I do like making deals. So if you want to make a deal where I always win, then I'm happy to do it. Um, Make sure that you remember that I don't want anyone to fail. Again, my main goal is to prepare you for the AP exam and for college. So I do not want anyone to fail. And in fact, it does always make me upset when people fail. And I will always try my best to, help you out as much as I can. Make sure that you're prepared to learn every day. There really is no, throwaway day unless there's only two people in the class. Absences, just make sure that you come up to me at some point and let me know uh, that you have to get the materials. Make sure that you get any missing assignments when you're absent. Same old stuff. Extra help, make sure that you come if you're having any trouble. I'm pretty much available every single day after school. If Yeah, I do recommend that you kind of let me know beforehand, though, if you're going to come, just so that I know to expect you. Even though I'm always there after school, I may end up having to run out at some point. So if you're going to come by, you go to another class first and then come back to my room, let me know that so I don't just leave for some reason. And also, please come into the extra help with at least some idea of what you want to go over. Don't just say teach me everything because that's really vague. Teach me about speed. I'm having trouble with these types of questions. Things like that. That way I can kind of focus and hone in on that specific issue. Helpful tips, this again true for everything. Be organized. This is true for note taking, for practice problems, all that type of stuff. Make sure that you're patient. Physics, not everyone gets physics, especially in the beginning, and especially when it comes to these conceptual questions. It tends to use an approach that not everyone is used to. So you might find that someone in the class, could be your friend, is excelling and you know has a good handle on the material right from the get-go, but then you're struggling throughout. So be patient. Just keep practicing, keep trying, do different things, ask me for help. Eventually, you should be able to kind of start getting it. Make sure that you're getting involved. Don't be passive. You can't learn physics if you're constantly just sitting back and just watching me do stuff. You kind of have to do it yourself. You have to make sure you are copying down the notes. You're doing discussions with me, with classmates. You're coming to extra help, things like that. You have to be productive. You can't learn to walk just by watching other people's walk. You have to do it yourself. And then don't let yourself get behind because it really is hard to catch up. Every subject that we cover later is based off of the previous part. It's we're building a building here. If you have a weak foundation, then the entire building crumbles. So you need to make sure that you're constantly keeping up to date. And then, make sure that, like I said, you let me know if you have any issues. I will try my best to make sure to help you out within my ability. Um, yeah, so good luck, and I'll give you the greatest chance that I can to make sure that you achieve the best results on the AP. And I just need to make sure that you put in some effort in practicing the skills that I come up. If you have any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, good luck and have a great day.